Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, but
the debrief.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, But the Debrief. I am Melanie, aka I'm Not a Lawyer, But, and I will be joined by my co-host. But I wanted to say that this is a special episode. We're dropping it on not our regular day because we are going to be doing a conversation with the attorneys for Alicia Andrews. And if you're unaware, Alicia Andrews is one of 5 people charged with the murder of Florida rapper Julio Foolio, whose real name is Charles Jones.
5 people are now charged in connection to Julio Foolio's murder. That includes Rashad Murphy, who is Davion Murphy's cousin. Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews are also charged with first-degree murder. Investigators say the group was involved in the shooting, caught on camera outside of a Tampa hotel. It happened while rapper Julio Foolio was celebrating his birthday back in June. Detectives identified the 2 Murphys and Gathright as the shooters and believe Chance and Andrews served as lookouts.
And following that, 5 people were subsequently arrested. And so Alicia Andrews being one of those people, her trial is scheduled to start on October 20th. So very, very soon. And before that happens, we are going to be chatting with her team about some of the things coming up for the case, who Alicia Andrews is, what kind of things they have on their mind for the trial. So I hope you enjoy the episode. We're going to get into it. So as I said, we are so excited to have a conversation with the attorneys for Alicia Andrews, and we are going to bring them up, have them introduce themselves, and get into the conversation. So here we go. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Let's start with intros. So maybe we start with Jeremy, then we can go to Robert, and then we can go to Mr. Life Malcolm.
Sounds good. So my name is Jeremy McClymont. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing in Florida now for 7 years. Had my own firm for 5 years. The first 2 years of my practice were at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office, and then I branched out, did my own thing. I do criminal defense and civil rights now. So police brutality, anything that goes in line with criminal defense, I'll do that on the civil rights end of it. So police brutality, illegal searches and seizures, wrongful arrests, false arrests, those sorts of things. They go hand in hand with my practice. And so those are my practice areas. And yep, that's pretty much all you need to know for now.
Interesting.
My name is Attorney Robert Strickland. I am co-counsel with Mr. Jeremy McClymont on the Alicia Andrews case. I'm with Malcolm and Strickland Law Group, and we handle a variety of different cases. We have a full-service litigation law firm. I'm about 10 years in, making this December with my 10th year in practice. And I practice in a lot of different areas of law throughout my career and trials. And so I'm glad to be here as a part of the team.
Thank you. Mr. Life Malcolm.
My name is Life Malcolm, and I'm born and raised in Tampa. I'm the oldest of the bunch, and I say that only because, although I'm the oldest, I'm the youngest lawyer in the group, and had several careers before, mainly working for the community in revolutionary organizations. And that led me to do some pro se civil litigation in federal court, which I think caught Jeremy's attention once I graduated law school, and he invited me to work with his firm and gave me my first job, fresh out of law school, as an attorney. And so it was an extreme pleasure and learning experience. So I followed in his footsteps, still carrying on civil rights work and certainly carrying on criminal defense work as well. So yeah, I'm very happy to be a part of this team to defend Alicia Andrews and work with Jeremy again in this capacity. And I appreciate being on this program too. Thank you so much.
Of course. And okay, so to start off, I wanted to ask a question. We have had attorneys on our platform during trials. We've had many attorneys come on after trials. But this is our first time being able to speak with attorneys before a trial. And so from the lawyer legal perspective, from, defending your client, I'm curious what thoughts and consideration goes into and like the benefits of the benefits of having a conversation before a trial. I was curious if you can answer that before we kind of get into the details of Alicia's case.
Yeah, so I think the very first thing that any attorney should be considering when doing any interview before, during, or after a trial is always the client and how it can affect the client, whether positively or negatively. And we take those things into account, right? So in this situation in particular, it may be more beneficial for us to have some interviews before, sometimes maybe during, although I likely wouldn't be speaking during because I'll be focused on the trial. But definitely before, because there are a lot of false narratives out there surrounding this case, surrounding the facts of the case. And definitely we want to get out in front of some of those things, some of those issues. We want to make sure that the only thing out there, right? Because the jury is going to be seeing, or probably has already seen, a lot of the things that might go on or might be mentioned in the trial. And a lot of those things are false, right? The narrative is false, and a lot of the things that have been happening on social media or been talked about on social media are false. And so we think it's particularly important to sort of balance that out before the trial starts.
Yeah, and I would just add to that also, along with the bad narrative that's out there because of the social media stuff and mainstream media as well. I mean, the only thing that people know about Alicia is what they say about her. You know, the case of, notwithstanding, that's a separate thing, but they paint Alicia a certain kind of way, and she's just not like that. And so I think it's important that people, that we have the opportunity to allow people to get to know the real Alicia, as opposed to the stuff that's kind of spread up in the media and social media as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great transition to talk about who she is, to talk about kind of what her life was before she was, one of the 5 people charged for the death of the Florida rapper Julio Foolio. So maybe we can start there, and you guys can tell us a little bit about her.
Sure, I'll start. And so Alicia is a young lady. At the time she was accused of this crime, she was 21 years old. And but she's such a fun-loving person. When you meet her, she's always smiling, always laughing. And I guess people see that sometimes even in some of the hearings that we've had. She's smiling, and I mean that's just her personality. Even through this most trying of times, she's that person. She graduated high school, has no criminal history whatsoever, right? And they won't say that in mainstream media or social media. They want to make her out to be this gang-related queen pin or something like that, but she's so far from it. She's a great student, esthetician, all about hair and nails and facials and modeling and what have you, and just a fun-loving young lady. And now, of course, she's a mother who hasn't had an opportunity to spend time with the baby, but greatly concerned about that relationship, looking forward to raising her child. And so she's just, if you can imagine an innocent kind of, like somebody who's green to the streets, right? Like that's her. She's school, girly stuff, and just that kind, fun loving. And you don't get to see that because you don't get to hear from her. And a lot of times her facial expressions might give because the narrative that she's some gangster queen pin might give the wrong impression. It's not that she doesn't take this seriously. She's just a person who even smiles through the toughest of times. And yeah, that's Alicia. Like, I've had an opportunity to get to know her, and I mean, you can't, if you know her, you can't help but like her.
I think, you bringing up her smiles, because that is some of the things that a lot of people have had questions about when they are watching the hearings. Has been, she seemed happy or smug or kind of, not taking this serious or whatever, the conversation is. And so you touching on that, I think is really interesting. And so your perspective is it's not that, it's actually just who she is and being able to remain positive even throughout this situation.
So the morning of trial, for example, when we were supposed to have trial, when we walked into the courtroom, they brought her in and I asked her how she was doing. And she smiled and, said she's doing fine, and said she had pancakes that morning and they were really good. I don't know if they don't generally get pancakes, but she was happy that before trial she had pancakes. And I mean, she's just that kind of light, high-spirited person. And I mean, I'm impressed, with her resilience throughout this. And I think it just shows who the real Alicia is, and she's not trying to hide that.
So what is the narrative that's going around about her, the negative?
I mean, I would say from what I've seen, and I try not to watch too much of it, right? But, you know, for example, I've seen this guy, DJ Academics, talk about how she's like maybe a fan of Sexy Red or whatever. So she listens to that type of music and whatnot. And so in order for her to be the type of person the prosecution wants her to be, you have to put her inside of this box. The box is that she probably grew up in a rough neighborhood. She maybe hangs out around a bunch of drug dealers or gang members or whatever, and she is one of them, just in the female version, right? And so they make her to be a Bonnie and Clyde sort of situation with her and her ex-boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, and that's not the situation. So those are some of the misconceptions, is that she's this ghetto person, that she probably, you know, is always hanging around these people, these individuals. Maybe she even listens to the type of music that they listen to, but it's not the case, right? She doesn't listen to really much of any rap music. She doesn't listen to any of the Jacksonville gang and beef music. That wasn't what she was interested in. And so I think it's very important that people know, in addition to what Life Malcolm has already stated, you know, this was a substitute teacher at one point. So she was trusted to be around other children, people's kids in school, and she was doing it at a very young age. So there's definitely a bunch of people out there who think that she, and maybe because she has some tattoos or whatever, and these are tattoos that she has, they're tattoos of flowers, right? They're not tattoos of necessarily you know, skulls or dead bodies or anything crazy that, you know, a gang member might have, or somebody who's wanting to have bodies on their account and whatnot. So I think everybody needs to, and maybe during the trial you'll get a better idea of the type of person she actually is. It's my daughter running behind me.
All good. We have to. But you also, I think, you, Jeremy, and like Malcolm brought up this relationship she has, this connection she has to one of the other defendants in the case. So can you talk a little bit about what that connection is? It seems like they had a romantic relationship. She had one with Isaiah Chance.
Right. Yeah. So she did have a romantic relationship with Isaiah Chance. They were both young when they met each other. I think they may even knew each other in high school, but they weren't necessarily together back then. At some point, they did get together, right? And people, I think, believe that they lived together at one point. They actually did not. They both lived in their respective parents' homes, and they would go over to, or she would go over to his mother's house where he lived to visit him sometimes. But they didn't actually live together or stay together, right? So in a world in which she lives at his house, or maybe is spending more time with him than people think that she is, then, you know, maybe she'd be more privy to some of the things that he had going on and whatnot. But they lived in two separate homes. They were kids. They lived with their parents, and the relationship that she shared with him, of course, you've probably seen it, right, in some of the hearings that we've discussed, was a domestic violence relationship, right? So a situation where there was a cycle of violence, and it didn't start like that from the very beginning. At the beginning, you know, he was to her a wonderful boyfriend or whatever, and then as time goes by, you know, little things happen, and then they full out abuse, right? Hitting, beating, choking, all these sorts of things, threatening, and it's sad that she was in that situation and that she kind of stayed and couldn't figure out her way out before this ended up happening. And this had to be the thing that sort of got rid of the relationship between her and him. I just wish it could have happened sooner.
Okay. Yeah.
So why would the judge not allow you all to bring that into evidence if that's the case?
So what I'll say is this: any judge, right? They make their rulings based off of how they see the law. We see the law differently than how the judge sees it, and I think, to answer your question, the reason why she is not allowing it in, because she says, or she believes, that it's not relevant. In order for me, right, to get her to see how relevant it really is, I'd have to sort of play my hand a little more than I would like before the trial. Right, so the things that you've seen in the hearings, even the things that I'm mentioning here, these are the very surface level stuff. And so I'm not willing to what they call pre-try my case just to get a ruling that the domestic violence can come in. And people believe that, or at least at one point believed that that was our defense, that because she was beat in the past or because she had a domestic violence relationship, that she should be justified in doing whatever the state claims that she did, right? And that's not our defense. And if it was our defense, then I'd be jumping up and down, screaming and doing a lot more to make sure that information comes in. But it's not our defense. And if it doesn't come in at all, we still have a very, very good case. We're not relying on that for it to be, our defense or for it to be something that wins the day, right? But it is the truth. It is something that happened, and it does speak to her mind state during the time that all of this was going down and what she was doing here and there and why she believed this and why she believed that. It's relevant to show like the relationship that they actually had, that it's not a Bonnie and Clyde relationship, right? It's a relationship where she was abused by him. She was afraid of him.
I would just kind of pick up where Jay left off and say that, one of the things that's important to know is this perception is not reality, and they have this perception of Alicia that they're pushing based on its bits and pieces of information that they've garnered from digital stuff like license plate readers. They gather evidence from phones and stuff like that, and they use all these things and try to piece together a narrative. And they've got this story in their head that is so far away from the truth, based on this perception of bits and pieces of knowledge, from technology, but they don't apply any kind of wisdom, human sensitivity to it. And so, like Jay said, it's important for us to help everybody understand that even without playing our hand and showing exactly what our defense is, it looks like Jay's back, that perception isn't always reality. And so Jay, you cut out for a minute.
I appreciate it. But no, that's it. If we have another question, we can move to the next question, unless you wanted me to pick up where I was at. I don't even remember where I was at when I cut out.
Well, I just want to give a little bit of context for people who are maybe unfamiliar or didn't watch the hearing, is that, and maybe you can even fill it in for me. So there's the history of domestic violence here. The defense team here was intending to bring some of that up during the trial. The prosecutors filed a motion to have that excluded. There was a hearing, and the judge rules that information cannot come in. It cannot be presented by the defense because it is not relevant. So just context for people who may be unfamiliar, that is kind of the setup to what we were just discussing. And just so that I'm clear, my understanding at the end of that hearing is that information cannot come in unless she testifies, essentially. Is that what the ruling was?
So, well, the judge what she was doing was saying that the only way she sees how that information could come into evidence is that if Alicia testifies, because no one would know the situation, no one would know her mind state. I also disagree with that, right? That is one of the main ways that information could come in, but there are other ways to get that evidence into the trial. And I will say this too, at the end of the hearing, what I thought you were about to mention was that at the end of the hearing, what the judge did say was that she was not going to allow the domestic violence in until she saw that it was relevant, right? Until the state sort of opened the door for it to come in. And that's going to happen, right? It's going to happen almost immediately. It'll probably happen in the state's opening statement because they have to put her in this box, right? And they have to say things about her mind state and why she did this and why she did that, right? And it's going to become very, very relevant as soon as the state starts making their arguments. And we're going to have either a sidebar conversation with the judge, or we'll have to send the jury out, and you all won't see that argument maybe on TV, right? Or maybe you will. I don't know how they end up showing the arguments with the lawyers on TV, but you'll see that at some point, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to get into it because it's completely relevant. Like there's no reason why her mind state at the time and what influences she might have at the time would not be relevant to a first-degree murder trial where you have to intend to do certain acts.
So usually If it's not a sidebar and the jury is excused, we get to see that on the stream. So as long as that part happens, we will all be tuned in and watching the argument about that happen. We will all be like, oh, is that the moment where it's been introduced? So just know we will be all in for sure. So let's get a little bit even closer, I guess, to the case. Talk about what are her actual charges. I know you just mentioned the first degree. What are the actual charges and what is the sentence? Because we've watched a number of Florida trials and we understand that there is no wiggle room in particular with the first degree murder charge in particular. So just talk a little bit about her charges and what the sentence could be.
Yeah, well, she's got two charges. One is conspiracy to commit first degree murder and the other is first degree murder, right? So those are the charges. Similar to Queso's situation, when you're charged with that, it's a capital offense. If you're convicted of it, there's really only one sentence. It's life without parole, right? So that's the sentence. If she was charged, right, if they were looking for the death penalty for Alicia, then she could potentially get the death penalty, right? And after the trial, if she was convicted, the jury would have a second pretty much trial on whether she should be sentenced to death or whether she should get life in prison, because those will be the only two options. But because they're not going after the death penalty for Alicia, the only sentence that she can get for these charges is life in prison without parole if she loses. If she wins, obviously she goes home.
Mm-hmm.
Is there no plea deal or?
Let's talk about the plea
negotiation.
There's no offer on the table for Alicia. This number, it literally came from social media. Somebody posted it, and then everyone took it and ran with it. There's never been an offer on the table for her to accept or anything like that. The only thing that they have come to Alicia with is to say, hey, if you proffer to us, if you come sit down with us and talk to us about everything that happened, we'll take it back to our homicide team. We'll discuss whether we want to offer you anything, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to you about what that offer may be. But it's not going to be anything like probation, anything, some light term of prison. It'll still be something significant. That is the only thing that they've come to us with. There's no number, there's no formal extension of an offer, nothing like that.
That sounds about right. The internet tends to make things up all the time.
Being in it is different. Like when you see all the stuff that goes, that comes out and whatnot, being in it is very different. But I have to say that I've seen, so a lot of people have hit me up and, have you seen this girl? She's on the internet on TikTok and this, and she says, I'm not a lawyer, but, and so they were all like people, my friends and whatnot, because I wasn't really on the TikTok and the Instagram and whatnot for a little bit. So they were all telling me about your representation of what was happening and how it was the most even keeled and most like objective out of all the others that they had seen, right? So kudos to
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That is my goal. I was going to say, I don't think I've ever mentioned the plea deal because I also look up the documents. And so, I'm not that would be in the document, but when I don't see it in the document, I'm less likely to report it. So I do appreciate that because that always is my goal, is to just say what's being said. And then people kind of get their own opinions from that and watching trials play out, because as we've seen many times in the trials that I've covered on my platform, what is the prosecution, their story is told first. They're the ones who indict. So their story gets told first. And when you get to trial, those things don't always play out the way it was presented, right? We start seeing things look a little different than how they were said. So I do try to remain more balanced with my kind of recapping of the situation. So I do appreciate that. I just want to quickly ask, you mentioned the death penalty. And just to be clear, Alicia's trial is the first of the 5, and they're being tried together. Is that right? And she is obviously separate. Why is her trial separate and from the others? And is it because of the possible sentence? I believe they are looking at the death penalty potentially, and obviously she is not. Is that why? And can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so to answer the first question, they're going to be tried, at least right now, the trial date for them is in April. So they will be tried separately but together. Now, as to why the two trials are at different time periods, it's because of a few things. In the very beginning of this case, Alicia was represented by another attorney. That attorney held on to her right to speedy trial. So the trial for her was supposed to go in January of this year. And because she did not waive speedy trial, the two trials took different paths. The other attorneys waived speedy trial, and so their trial was set out much further. But when January came around, I jumped on the case a little bit before that. I asked for a continuance, and then it was set to August of this year. And then the other trials, they had their own track, right? So if there's someone that breaks, away from the issue, like if one of the other defendants say, I want a speedy trial, if they demand the speedy trial, they'll have to go to trial before April. So long as they maintain, right, or that they don't want a speedy trial, that they want to go whenever everyone else is going, then they'll stay in that group.
And she was originally in January, she was still pregnant, right? So that initial date would have been before she had her baby. Obviously being moved now, she's had the baby until now that's happening on the other end. But she was pregnant initially, right? For the January date.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a world where the other defendants vouch for her story, or say yes, she was abused, or yes, she didn't know what was happening? Is that possible?
It's possible, but unlikely. I think at this point in time, though, they have the right to remain silent, and they'll likely stick with that unless, I can imagine that they would volunteer any information right now.
And one thing you'll learn is that most of these other defendants, they have no relationship with Alicia for them to even want to get on the stand and throw themselves under the bus and just to save her. The only one that would or maybe should even have some sort of idea of doing that would be her ex-boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, right? So he could step in and say, this is what happened, and she had nothing to do with it and whatnot. Again, that's unlikely to be the case in this situation, but theoretically he could come. We could use him as a witness. If he didn't want to assert his Fifth Amendment right, he could testify and talk about what happened, what actually happened. But that's very unlikely to happen. His lawyer is likely not going to let him do that, and he himself probably is not of that opinion. But I don't want to speak for him. But
I don't know if I can jump in right quick because Jake said something that I kind of want to piggyback on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
This thing that she's not part of the group. Those guys don't know her. The only one who knew her was Isaiah Chance, and essentially, for all intents and purposes, Chance is the only one whom Alicia knew. And so, it's an astute audience like yours should be able to ascertain quickly that Alicia wasn't in the loop because she wasn't in the group. So she didn't know all of this stuff that these guys knew. They came down to, if they did do what the state alleges, they came down here for one thing. Alicia came down here to be with her boyfriend, and all of these other plans they had, she was not privy to those because she wasn't in the group. She was out of the loop. It means like which one doesn't belong, and clearly it's her. They all knew each other. She didn't. They were all a group. She wasn't. And so I really do appreciate the fact that you have such a platform that maintains the objectivity and the open-ended kind of question position for your audience to come to their own rational conclusions. I don't know what comes after the ellipses, and I'm not a lawyer, but I will say this. If it was the state, though, it should say, I am a lawyer, but we rushed to judgment in this instance.
Come on.
No, that's what happened here. Susan Lopez and her office, when this awful incident occurred, made a lot of statements and a lot of promises without knowing everything that we now know. And they rushed to judgment. And but yeah, it's clear Alicia wasn't in the loop because she wasn't in the group. Yeah.
I like it. We gonna remember that one.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit. Jeremy mentioned the queso trial and this kind of Florida rat beef that kind of goes a long way and kind of goes into all of that. Per the state, according to the state, that beef is connected to this case as well. Is that what you're saying? Is that what they're saying, I should say?
I mean, certainly there's a lineage, presuming that there is a relationship between the defendants, the four guys, and ATK and 6 Block, then certainly there's a connection to the gang war that started in Jacksonville probably somewhere around 2017 with Julio Foolio and Yungeen Ace. And it's a thing that's led to a series of killings and rap songs about them. And so if there is a connection between the four defendants, the four guys who are defendants in this case, and ATK, of course, it's all connected to the case. So stuff that is connected to the entire Jacksonville warfare that's occurred over the past 8 or so years.
Yeah. Are we expecting to see lyrics used in this trial?
Well, music videos, not necessarily the lyrics, but music videos will be used by the state.
Okay.
Right. We believe that that's irrelevant to Alicia's trial because she's not the one in the music videos. She doesn't even know half the songs that they're going to be trying to use or show the jurors. The reason why they want to show the jurors these music videos is because they want to play up this idea that there's a gang beef between 6 Block and ATK, which are the two groups here that come into play, right? But Alicia has no connection to any of the music that they're going to be putting into the trial. But the judge allowed that. We'll deal with that appropriately as it comes. I think it's going to be a distraction for the jurors, and we'll highlight that for the state. I mean, for the jurors, we'll highlight that the state is here trying to distract you, as opposed to presenting evidence that shows that Alicia intended to do something that you're claiming she did.
So in the ATK, this kind of lineage, this rap beef that kind of goes back, is there any connection between Alicia and rapper Julio Foolio? Was she partying with him that night? Is there any connection outside of this incident between her and him?
Zero. Absolutely none. Doesn't follow him on Instagram. No social media relationship. She doesn't know him. She was nowhere near him as far as where he's partying or what have you. So no relationship whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the state, I don't know if I haven't heard this narrative pushed in social media or mainstream media, but Alicia has no gang affiliation, and the state admits that. There's a statute, Florida Statute 874, that describes what a gang member is, what a gang associate is, what a gang affiliate is, etc. And Alicia fits none of that criteria, and the state admits that. She's not a known gang associate, not a known gang member. She's a person of no interest when it comes to gangs, and the state knows that. She has absolutely no ties to that mess. Okay. So like I said, again, I think that the state made a lot of promises in the beginning of this, and they're doing the best they can to save their faces in this instance. But they arrested Alicia, no connection.
And so you're asking about her connection to Julio Foolio, right? Which was, they say that he was over the 6 Block group, right? So you might also say, okay, well, what about her affiliation to Yungeen Ace, right? Which was allegedly over the ATK group. There's no affiliation to Yungeen Ace as well.
Okay. Wow. Oh, here's another question I have. Obviously, the consequence of this, the potential verdict, if guilty, the potential sentence, I should say, is life without parole. How do you, as attorneys, prepare your client for, especially it was gonna happen in January, she has her, don't talk about postpartum alone is a whole nother thing, but doing that in jail, and now you don't get to see your child, so there's a whole nother woman level, mother level that I could have a whole nother episode about. But for her to have this massive moment approaching for her, and then it was gonna start a month ago, and then it gets pushed again. How do you prepare your client for the reality of what's coming, and the days are going to be long, not being able to defend yourself when you hear people the prosecutor saying these things about you that you feel are not correct? How do you prepare clients for something of this magnitude?
So I'll tell you one thing, at least for Alicia, I have many clients, and some are crybabies, and she's the furthest thing from that. Right? This is a young woman, a young kid, and she has to be one of the strongest clients that I have. facing the heaviest of burdens, right? It's like with her child, right? And at one point being impregnated in the prison, in jail, right, with a child. After that, not being able to see your child, a continuance of the trial, not having any opportunity to get any bail or bond, right? And when I go and see her, her spirits are never down, right? She believes wholeheartedly that she will be exonerated because she's innocent. And when you see us in court, when you see her smiling, when you see me and her discussing things, it's also me trying to make sure that her spirits are up, right? Which is very important, right? So it's very important that she knows that she's got people that are fighting for her, that she maintains the spirit that she has, right? That she doesn't allow jail to break her, or what people are saying online to break her, right? Obviously, we have to watch what the jury may see with her smiling, right? And we'll deal with that in trial. What the internet may say and what they may believe about her smiles and this and that it will be irrelevant, because we'll be talking to the jurors that are seated in the box, the 12 people who are going to make the decision, right? And they'll get to see her every day, not just clips on Instagram, right? And so it's very important that everyone knows that this is a young kid, but she's very, very strong, and she's very ready for this to be over with and ready for the moment.
Yeah.
And one of your viewers says something very interesting. They have a comment up that says the state likely wants her to flip to bolster their case against the others, right? Think about why she isn't doing that, right? Why wouldn't she save herself if she could, right? Think about that very heavily in your thoughts, right? If she could save herself, this is her first child. She was 21 at the time, right? If she could save herself by flipping on everybody else, why wouldn't she do that already?
Especially on people she doesn't even know.
She don't know. She don't know the guy. So
yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, they talked to her for hours when they interrogated her about the matter, right? In the interview before the arrest, they talked to her for hours. Her story was the same, and she just told them the truth. They rejected the story. You had to know because you were right there. You had to know because you know this guy. You had to know that. And she's like, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know. So, I mean, and I have to echo what Jay said. I said it a bit earlier. I mean, she's just that kind of person. She's sturdy. And if she was in the courtroom breaking down and crying, the people on social media would have something to say about that too. She's crying because she's guilty. So cry or smile, she can't win. But her personality is of such that, she is a high-spirited person. She's standing on her belief that the truth will indeed make her free, and that she has a good legal team behind her to help that come about. I like the sentence that you proposed, life without prison. That's the verdict that we're going.
Come on now.
Put new meanings to words. I love it. I think those were the questions I had, but if there's anything I didn't touch on or something you guys wanted to add, please feel free to say that now.
I can go through the comments and see if there's anything I can answer. So I do see people asking about jury selection, like what our ideal jurors might be. So that's something that we'll hold close to the chest, right? Because jury selection, but I could say this about jury selection. Jury selection is really jury deselection. So they're going to have 100 or so people come into the room. And I don't know that you all will be able to see any of this. I think the Young Thug trial may have had jury selection like live stream. I can't remember. I know it was a long period or process for that, like months of jury selection. But they're going to have about 100 or so people come in. And we're going to be asking these people questions. Our goal is to find the people who have the most bias against Alicia and the type of charges that she's faced with. So if someone is a juror who has had someone in their family killed and they can't get over it, right? Or someone is familiar with gang violence and they just can't get over what they've been through. Those are the individuals that we're looking to get off the jury. So long as we can get jurors who will look at the evidence objectively and won't have any biases towards Alicia Andrews, then we're good, right? We don't need necessarily somebody who thinks that she's beautiful and thinks that they'll just let her go because of that, right? That's not realistic. That might be something that you do in a movie, right? But But here we're looking to just get off the people who are biased, who can't be fair and impartial jurors in this case. So long as we can do that, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, we've had a jury consultant on our platform a couple of times, and kind of spoke to him about jury deselection and how that process goes. It's always very interesting to see how that works. And I attended the ASAP Rocky trial that was in LA at the beginning of the year, and again, watching that process and how it kind of plays out is always so interesting.
I would just say that it's so important that that people remember. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm a revolutionary. I don't have a whole lot of high hopes when it comes to this colonial construct, right? But we live in it, and those of us in this who are lawyers in this particular program right now, we all work to make this thing work better for those of us who've been trapped in a certain kind of situation for hundreds of years. And I would hope that your audience members and others would recognize that it could just as easily be them, and not be so quick to rush to judgment, because perception is not always reality. Alicia was it still is, a young woman, excited about life, makeup, hair, modeling, and now mothering and what have you, right? On a, she packed a girl bag to go on this trip, not a gun bag. And, she on a trip with her boyfriend to hang out, to club hop in Tampa. That's what she was here to do, right? And with no clue that this awful thing was about to occur, because it happened when she was somewhere nearby, now guilty by association. And all these people, many of whom look like her, want to side with the people who would put them in the same throes of injustice if they're standing next to it. And, I think that we should, as some kind of, just a community, reconsider how we express ourselves when we find one of our sisters and brothers in this mess. So I would just leave with that. That's.
I just had one more question. Actually, I just thought about it, because there's two charges, obviously, the first degree, and then it's accessory. Is that the other one?
So not accessory, but let me explain the first degree murder. So when in Florida and in other places as well, she's charged with the principal theory, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not claiming that she actually pulled the trigger, right? So if you don't actually pull the trigger, you can be charged with the same crime, receive the same punishment as someone who actually did the crime if you helped, right? And so maybe that's where you're getting the accessory language from, is that if you helped the situation, if you did something, if you intended for the result to happen and you did something to help it occur, then you charge as what they call a principal, and then you're facing the same sort of crime. You're charged with the same thing. So she's charged with the first degree. Somebody in the chat asked the question, is she charged with premeditated murder? In Florida, the difference between first and second degree murder is that first degree means it's premeditated. So she is charged with premeditated murder.
Go ahead, sorry.
So Julio is not the only victim in the case. Right? There were multiple people in the car. So there are other victims. Other people did get shot, right? Other people were shot at. So while it seems as though the intended target was one individual, there were multiple people in the car that were victims.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a conspiracy.
And Jay's right. Julio wasn't the only victim. The other people in the car who were shot weren't the only victims. Alicia's a victim too.
Yeah.
Cool. We just covered the Kyron Lacey case, and learning that you need to really get all of the evidence out and dive deep into the evidence before you come to a conclusion. Because I was one of those people with the Lacey's case. He did this, and this is what I saw on media, and this is why this happened. But after all of the evidence came, you see it was totally different. So, hopefully everybody looks at this case and,
just remain objective and lets it play out.
Objective,
Let it play out, for sure. Okay, I think that is all I have. Again, I'm so happy that you guys were able to join us for this conversation. We don't have attorney Arian White, who I have a relationship with, who is also on the team as well. So we'll be watching the stream, looking forward to watching All of you guys do what you do. I'll leave you guys with any final words before we go. We can start with Mr. Lifeman. You've given us all the words, all the quips. I like it. But if you have any you want to leave before we get out of here.
I just want to express my deep and profound appreciation for y'all having this platform and welcoming us onto it. And I look forward to doing it again when we bring Alicia home.
Absolutely. We'll have to circle back for sure. Mr. Strickland?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your time and the ability to speak on behalf of our client, Ms. Alicia Andrews, and listening to us. We appreciate that.
We'll let you take us out.
So first, I want to say shout out to Arian. I've known Arian since I was actually in law school. I think we met the summer of 2016 or so. She was going to Emory at the time. I was at FIU Law School, and we met because I wouldn't say it went viral, but there was a conversation. There was a student at FIU that posted some rap lyrics, some Kanye West rap lyrics about being in Paris, but they called themselves The Word. And so it caused an uproar at my school, and Arian jumped in the fight all the way from Emory in Georgia, and she had my back. So we had each other's back since then. Nice. But yeah, so I just want to say I appreciate the platform. I appreciate everything you do on your platform because it's good. I don't know when you're actually going to become a lawyer, but the practice could use you. So after that, I'm not a lawyer, but it's coming. And maybe that's probably what you're supposed to say. But definitely, being a lawyer, there's a lot of people. They've gone to law school, they've taken the bar, and they're still very illogical. They still don't know how to just represent the facts. They still don't know how to keep issues separate. And you get on, I've seen you do many cases, like civil cases as well as criminal, and you're able to, like, sometimes the same day, you're able to pick apart a case. You're able to pull out the documents from the docket and pretty much go through it and give everybody a snapshot of what happened, and it's accurate. So like that skill in of itself is crazy to have, even though you haven't been to law school and you're not a lawyer. But hey, the future is very wide open. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you for saying that.
Growing you up, they saying speak on it. So
they tell me all the time, but I will. This is what I do say. Because I'm in California, they have the baby bar, which is it's criminal, torts, and contract law that you would be tested on. And so I do want to take that because you don't have to be in law school and all of that. And so I do want to take that. Just it's very petty of me, just so I can comment when people are like, "You're not a lawyer, shut up." I can say, click the baby bar so I know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I don't. I have enjoyed building this platform and being some part of being able to inform people and have kind of facts behind me. That truly is the heart of what I'm doing. So I really, really appreciate you saying that. Appreciate you guys even considering me for this conversation and coming on to chat with us. We will be watching our platform. The co-counsel is what we call them. We will be watching for sure and, giving thoughts. I'll be doing my recaps. So again, thank you so much. And yeah, all the best of luck for the trial.
And all three of you all are very motivational. Thank you for representing us well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We will see everyone next time. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right.
See you guys. Bye.
So again, thank you all for watching. I hope it was informative. I hope you'll be tuned in to the trial that is starting again on jury selection starts on October 20th. So depending on how long that takes, we'll get to opening statements. And wherever you fall, all I hope is that you remain objective, not saying you have to go for either side. But I think what I try to encourage, and even as a reminder to myself, that we just let the facts play out. I've been stumbling all day. Let the facts play out and kind of see what happens from there. So that's always my goal. Thank you again to the attorneys. Thank you to Arian. She was missed today. I will put all of their social media information in the description box. So if you want to reach out to them or follow them or any of that, you can. But I think the other thing, and I just want to say this to, again, be balanced. Please don't take this conversation as me being pro one side or the other. At the end of the day, somebody's life was lost, right? Charles Jones, aka Julio Foolio, his life was lost. I think even the attorney said he was a victim and there were other victims outside of him. So that is not the point to, not consider the fact that there was a death in this case. But we always want to make sure the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt who committed the crimes. And so that is always the intention and the goal of my platform. So we'll see how this plays out. You have anything else you're going to say?
No, you covered it.
Make sure you are subscribed to I'm Not a Lawyer But on YouTube, I'm Not a Lawyer But on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Just make sure you're following the right Facebook because there's an imposter.
It's I'm Not a Lawyer But official on Facebook. Which one is it?
Oh, you're right. I think it's I'm Not a Lawyer But official. You're right.
Yeah,
on Facebook. So follow that one. Don't follow the fake one. I'm Not a LawyerBut.com for merch. And thank you for watching this special episode. It's not on our regular kind of drop day. So, and answer your jury duty summons. The Patreon is telling me, and that's a good reminder. Answer your jury duty summons. All right. Bye.